All right, everyone. Welcome to this full moon Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for Monday and Tuesday, April 10th and 11th, 2017. So very powerful full moon. I do want to preface here that this is for Sidereal Astrology. If you are used to mainstream astrology or Western astrology, you definitely want to check the link down below because we're using different signs. We're using the actual size and location of the constellations. So a full moon in Virgo, very powerful time. This full moon is going to be forming a T-square up to this whole configuration we've had since November, December. Jupiter opposite Uranus, Jupiter square up to Pluto. All right, forming this formation, which I will show you here in just a few minutes. But what makes it so powerful is automatically T-squares are powerful, but Pluto's involved. Jupiter's involved. Jupiter expands. Pluto makes transformation in our life. We want to make transformation in our life. And Uranus wants freedom. We want freedom in our life. So there's a lot shifting, and I think this full moon is going to give us some insight, is going to give us some awareness, and I think particularly about what can be worked in our life. This is what Virgo represents. It's the work. So asking ourselves the question, maybe what have we been involved with since November, December, that maybe is taking work or has maybe recently started to take some work because last month maybe some information came to light back in March and maybe most recently back in late March. So asking yourself what's been expanding in your life since then and what new information came in March, possibly late March, that now has shifted you into this new direction. And the new direction is all about us making the changes that we may feel uncomfortable making, but we know it's necessary. Deep down, we know it's necessary, and that's the square up to Pluto. Uranus wants us to, this is a side of ourselves that wants to break free. That's the opposition with Uranus. Feeling restricted, perhaps, or feeling like we want to revolutionize things. And with the conjunction up to Jupiter, we could be seeing that, yes, there's possibilities and potentials. There is future unfoldment. But maybe it is requiring to go deep. Maybe it is requiring to make those changes with both Pluto and Uranus. All right, so we'll talk about this in more detail when we return. But I just want to say generally, this is a great time to bring some more awareness to our life. Monday and Tuesday, regardless of what it is, to really sit with the energy, see what's coming in, what new insight perhaps. But there is momentum. And with that awareness, we can certainly take some action. So it is an excellent time during full moons to implement, to take the action because we have the energy and the insight to do so. All right, so let's go and look at this in more detail. All right, so there's the chart for the full moon. Here is the full moon in Virgo, conjoining up to Jupiter, retrograde. And the sun getting closer to Uranus, so an opposition with the full moon up to Uranus. And this square from both sides, this T-square up to Pluto, who's been in Sag. So let's go ahead and break this down one by one. Fundamentally, this is a time of integrating Virgo qualities. So as I was saying, asking yourself what takes work, what can be reworked perhaps with Jupiter retrograde, right? What can be reconsidered? And it does make it an excellent time for finding solutions at the moment, right? Using that Virgo quality to find solutions, improving ourselves, maybe improving our life most fundamentally, and really getting into the organizational, detailed, and analytical side of ourselves. These are all the healthy qualities of Virgo. And I think, collectively we are integrating them. So the more open we are individually to these qualities, it's going to help this energy flow. And it's really like a guide. It's like with all of the stuff that's been, shifting since last year. Right now, Virgo is sort of the key here that's saying we're needing to integrate this with Jupiter, integrate some of what we've been learning about the importance of focusing on the details of things, for getting into the nitty-gritty of things and just structuring and working on these details. So that's fundamentally what Virgo's about. Talking about this conjunction with Jupiter, this can actually be quite a buoyant full moon. All right, we can be feeling expansive. Now, mind you, Jupiter is retrograde, so more than likely most of this is going on internally still. Jupiter's not going to go direct until early June. So this is the whole reworking thing I'm talking about. You know, it's that we know things are expanding. And by the way, you can check your weekly to see which house this is, you know, all these configurations, to see, you know, which areas of life are associated here for you. For some of you, it's home. For some of you, it's relationships, things like that. But anyways, with this conjunction up to the Jupiter retrograde, it's sort of this reminder that, you know, we've been needing to reconsider some things. And although things are expanding, they are requiring right now a bit of adaptability and a bit of flexibility. Where can we shift? Where can we adapt? Because information's coming to light, has been for the past couple months. And so we want to be as flexible as possible to apply it. So I think that full moon's going to be illuminating that side of things. Is where can we be flexible? What new insight is coming in that then we can implement, but implement in ways that has a plan A, B, and C, or more, A, B, C, D, E. You know, just always having a sort of exit strategy and a way to pivot and shift based on the new information that comes to light. Not to mention the fact that Mercury is retrograde at the moment. In fact, a lot of planets are retrograde, Venus and Saturn as well, suggesting that we kind of want to feel that energy. You know, it's important we kind of do that anyways, especially with our daily routine with Mercury. You know, be flexible and adaptive. But this full moon could certainly be emphasizing that retrograde motion. All right, so, but yeah, Jupiter is about expansion, so we could be feeling buoyant. I think it's a great time to really examine our belief systems, reconsider our belief systems, you know, because honestly, things can't, like, we can't actually cultivate anything if we don't believe it exists. And sometimes merely not seeing a potential or not thinking that something's possible will prevent us from ever even experiencing it or ever even having the luck. You know, Jupiter is often talked about in terms of luck, but it's not so much luck as much as it's the area that we can open our mind to possibilities and then see the opportunities we wouldn't have seen otherwise. So it does make it a good time to, yes, think big, see the larger perspective, and then that can help us see again these new things that are shaping up that maybe we didn't see before the retrograde. All right, so that's the conjunction up to Jupiter. Now let's talk about this opposition up to Uranus. And, you know, this is all about probably wanting to break free. This one's been in orb since late December. And so, you know, part of ourself wants to expand, but then another part of ourself probably wants a bit of freedom. And there can be a lot of bottlenecking energy here. You know, we can feel revolutionary. We can feel like wanting to break free. So the healthiest expression, if you are feeling that, you know, and there's a caution too with all oppositions with Jupiter to overexpand. You know, it's like we don't want to just go into Jupiter, just go into the possibilities and expansion without neglecting our true self, you know, who we truly are, and honoring who we truly are at the same time. There's polarity here. So it's all about balance with oppositions, and the balance here is how can we continue to expand? How can we continue to, you know, expand our mind and our belief systems while at the same time honoring who we are, right? And expanding constructively, expanding, you know, in a way that isn't impulsively or reactively. You know, this is the qualities of Jupiter and Uranus. Uranus just wants to do things suddenly, and Jupiter just wants to do things without really even thinking about it. So, you know, naturally in their imbalanced states. So it is about getting practical. It is about thinking about it and seeing how we can implement this stuff in healthy ways. And that's the key, is that this opposition, as all oppositions, is about bridging the gap. Understanding that, yes, we can have both. We can have both the potential and the freedom. It's just being integrated. It's being worked. And the more conscious we are of this integration, of these two seemingly opposite aspects of ourself or of life, as we bridge that gap, it then synergizes it. And that's what we're called to do with oppositions. All right, so let's talk about this change, you know, the square up to Pluto. Pluto's all about deep change psychologically, emotionally. It's about facing fears. And so a lot of this can be brought to the awareness right now with the full moon as well. So this one's been going on, as I said, November So again, November, December, and then maybe some new information just a few weeks ago, late March, having to do with, where we can make some deep changes, some uncomfortable changes that may require facing some fears, right? Because again, Jupiter's seeing the potentials, Uranus is wanting the freedom, but then here's Pluto saying yes, but not without these fears, not without confronting these fears, rather, because they're there. We always have fear, and Pluto helps bring that to the surface. It's challenging to do, in this case, collectively with the square, but it allows us this opportunity to accept the fears. The fears are brought to the surface for the acceptance. And oftentimes a lot of fears and traumas and inhibitions and wounds can be brought up that were previously brushed under the rug, that we previously brushed under the rug, so to speak. So now it's time of lifting up the rug, facing those fears, accepting those fears, and that can be tremendously powerful, tremendously liberating, in fact. Both Pluto and Uranus are about liberation. So with the Jupiter side to it, we're changing our perspective again. And so as the perspective is changing, right, we can implement these changes that we do want to see, these actions. Oftentimes the square is about setting intention, setting initiative, and often taking action. Sometimes it's receptive action, but setting initiative to make those changes. And maybe this is all going on within. In fact, astrologically, things all happen within first, and then naturally they happen without. I mean, that's how life is, but astrologically, we're looking at what's going on within collectively. And so as we do this inner work here, we can start to see how things are unfolding in the external environment. So so that's the full moon in a nutshell. A very powerful T-square. There is potential, although they're being reworked with Jupiter, particularly working on the details, organizing, getting into that refined aspect of ourselves that wants to improve things and better ourselves and better our life. And there's a side of ourselves that wants freedom, particularly freedom of letting go and finding peace, which is Uranus and Pisces. All right, it's the freedom of being who we truly are, honoring who we truly are on a soul level. But there's a bit of disparity. There's a bit of a gap between these two potentials and freedom of ourselves. So how can we bridge that gap? And then the square up to Pluto in Sagittarius, mind you, is that, there's all of these fears and deep things being brought to the surface that we can accept in order to make the changes. Because it's not until we accept the fears do we really set the initiative to make the changes. As long as we're pushing the fears away, as long as we're hiding from them, we don't make the changes. So it's an inner process that leads to an outer process. And in Sagittarius, this is all about the fact that collectively our life path and our belief systems have been changing very much over the past many years. And this could be another symbol, especially with Jupiter, of how our belief systems are changing, how our perspective is changing on things. And that can be a very powerful force in our lives. All right, so here's the transits. For those of you that do want to see it, the full moon will be at 0208 Eastern time on Tuesday, April 11th, but it will be certainly in orb Monday and Tuesday. Typically Monday, as we approach full moons, there is going to be more and more awareness, more and more momentum, and then after the full moon, it's really implementing it or putting the insight into motion. But listen to your inner guidance. If you do feel like taking action, it is a great, as I said, time to do that with the full moon. Or some of you may just want to wait until the insight comes in and then take the action. But the insight's coming in, a few days before. You may have felt it over the weekend and even a few days after going into the rest of this week. So, so that's the full moon. Here's the aspects we talked about. Mercury is still stationed on Monday too. So there is still this whole rethinking about our routine, about the daily stuff. The mind's kind of slowing down. We're wanting to reconsider things anyways, and that's a great way of working with this week. Generally, is what can we reconsider? What can we redo and rework that maybe previous to the last weekend? We had a different perspective on things. So now we have a different perspective. We can rework some things with that Mercury retrograde. And again, flexibility is the key there. I do want to mention also that as we go into Wednesday, we do have Venus getting closer to Chiron, Venus retrograde in Pisces. And so maybe things involving our relationships or our values, the things we enjoy in life, maybe there's some moons coming up about this stuff. And so just like with, Pluto, really, Chiron is very much about acceptance. And as we accept any wounds that may come up about relationships, values, resources, the things we enjoy in life, it's all going to happen, the healing is going to happen very naturally. So I think the real rejuvenation of the healing will probably be a bit later in the week. But today, if you do feel some wounds, or excuse me, on Tuesday, if you do feel some wounds regarding those things, then it's good to do that inner work, that acceptance, and that can certainly facilitate this healing process going through the rest of the week. All right, so hope you all have a fantastic full moon. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares. Have a great one, and I will see you all next time. Take care.